Have you ever stopped to think why Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most influential philosophers in history, seemed to have such disdain for weak people? What did he see in the society of his time that made him so certain that weak people were, in fact, dragging the world down? If you think Nietzsche was only talking about physical weakness, think again. The weakness he despised went far beyond the body. It was a weakness of the soul, of the mind, of the will. And the most interesting part is that the philosopher wasn't just attacking a type of person. He was exposing a cultural disease, an illness that is still deeply rooted in modern society. The weakness he described was the weakness of passivity, mediocrity, and conformity. His view, which might seem harsh or even elitist, was not a criticism directed at a specific group. It was, in fact, a warning to all of us. Imagine the following. You live in a world where most people conform, where the fear of failure prevents any form of boldness, a world where people settle for routine, for more of the same, for accepting what has already been given. This is what Nietzsche saw as the real problem. Society was being shaped by those who refused to challenge norms, to break barriers, to go beyond what was comfortable. For Nietzsche, being weak wasn't simply about not being able to lift more weight or lacking endurance. Being weak meant being vulnerable to society's expectations, succumbing to the pressure of being normal, of not questioning the status quo. He saw this as an invisible prison that kept most people in an eternal cycle of mediocrity. And this cycle, for him, didn't just limit the individual, it weakened the entire society. So, why did Nietzsche hate weak people? Because he believed that weakness wasn't an inevitable condition. It was a choice, a passive acceptance of what the world had already imposed. And the worst part of it all, this weakness doesn't just affect the weak, but everyone around them. Weakness spreads. It installs itself in the minds of others and prevents them from reaching their full potential. Nietzsche, with his bold vision, saw this as a threat to progress, to true greatness, to the human potential to rise and conquer. The question is, could you also be weak without realizing it? Could this weakness that Nietzsche hated still be alive inside you, shaping your choices, your actions, your achievements? Now that you have an idea of what Nietzsche thought, the big question is, are you ready to challenge this weakness and seek true strength within yourself? When Nietzsche looked at the society around him, he didn't just see a group of physically weak people. He saw a mental and moral weakness that spread like a plague, contaminating all those who didn't have the courage to challenge established norms. The great problem that Nietzsche identified was not a weakness of the body, but a weakness of spirit, of will, of character. In Nietzsche's view, society always sought to keep everyone within a mold. According to him, there was enormous pressure for people to conform, to passively accept the norms, values, and rules that had been imposed, without question. Morality, in particular, was one of the main culprits for this. Christian morality, for example, was one of the great villains for Nietzsche. It preached that humility, suffering, and submission were virtues, something that, in his view, was directly linked to weakness. Christian morality created a narrative in which weakness is seen as virtue, and qualities related to power and overcoming are demonized. Nietzsche saw this morality as a form of control. It was created so that the weak, those who did not have the capacity to dominate or overcome, could justify their inferior position and still feel virtuous. Instead of striving to achieve greatness, individuals were content with a passive existence, accepting life as it is and boasting about it. For Nietzsche, this was the great problem. Society was being shaped by a morality that encouraged weakness. Furthermore, Nietzsche saw weakness as conformism. He believed that most people went through life without questioning pre-established ideas, without challenging the norms around them. This created a society where people lived according to what was expected, but did not strive to reach their true potential. He saw this passive acceptance as one of the worst things a person could do. He spoke of weakness as a willingness to conform, to not fight against life's challenges, to not take risks. This mentality of conformity, of fear of failure, was what Nietzsche saw as the enemy of true greatness. He wanted people to stop hiding behind imposed norms and limitations, to have the courage to act, to challenge themselves, to do what is difficult, and thus find their true value. And the problem didn't stop there. For Nietzsche, Weakness wasn't something that affected only the individual. It had a collective impact. When a person submits to this weakness, whether through religion, social conformity, or fear, they are unknowingly contributing to the maintenance of a society that values what is easier, more comfortable. The result of this? A stagnant society, where few stand out, few seek more, and all settle for mediocrity. Weakness, therefore, spreads like a virus, preventing true evolution. This is the crucial point Nietzsche was raising. Weakness is not just an individual problem, but one that affects society as a whole. And by perpetuating this mentality of weakness, you not only harm yourself, but also the ability of all humanity to reach its true potential. I've been there. For years I found myself trapped in mediocrity, following patterns and norms simply because everyone around me was doing the same. I was conditioned to believe that the limitations imposed by society were natural, that the constant struggle for something greater was almost immoral. But as I delved deeper into Nietzsche's writings, something changed. He showed me that true strength does not lie in following the crowd, but in challenging oneself, in breaking the barriers imposed on us. He made me see that I wasn't weak because I failed, but because I accepted without questioning. True weakness lies in the lack of will to transcend, to reinvent oneself. Nietzsche wasn't attacking weak people as an empty insult. He was drawing attention to the fact that weakness does not have to be a destiny. It can be a choice. That's why, by studying his ideas, I began to notice where my own weakness manifested, where I was accepting mediocrity in my life, in my choices. And I can assure you it's a difficult place to face, but essential for personal growth. Have you ever stopped to think what your life would be like if you were no longer a victim of conformity? If you were no longer trapped by the limitations society imposed on you? What would happen if you decided to break the chains of weakness and began to act with courage, determination, and a true will to overcome challenges? Nietzsche believed that this radical change could transform not only the life of an individual but society as a whole. The transformation he proposed is not simple nor easy, but the benefits of this journey are undeniable and profound. Let's explore the main benefits of adopting a mindset of strength, of letting go of the weakness that society feeds and starting to pursue what is grand. The first great benefit of overcoming weakness, according to Nietzsche, is freedom. He believed that people who conform to life without questioning social, religious, and cultural norms are actually living in a mental prison. This prison is built by ideals that tell you what you should do, how you should live, and even how you should feel about your own life. By adopting a mindset of overcoming and courage, you begin to free yourself from these chains. You become the owner of your destiny. You will no longer be a product of others' expectations or of the rules imposed by society. You will create your own values, your own goals, and define what is important to you. The freedom to live according to your own beliefs and desires is one of the greatest benefits you can achieve by challenging weakness. Another direct benefit of overcoming weakness is increased self-confidence. Nietzsche spoke about the concept of the will to power, the ability to take control of your life and act according to your own willpower. When you challenge yourself to overcome adversity and achieve your goals, you prove to yourself that you're capable of much more than you imagined. Every small victory over inner weakness, over procrastination, doubt, fear of failure, is a boost of confidence. And that confidence will spread to all areas of your life, from your career to your personal relationships. The feeling of knowing you can face and overcome any challenge will completely change your perception of yourself and your possibilities. Nietzsche believed that life should be a continuous journey of self-overcoming. When you choose to challenge weakness and step out of your comfort zone, you put yourself on a path of constant growth. Instead of living stagnantly, accepting mediocrity as an inevitable fate, you begin to seek more. And that desire for more is what leads to true growth. The benefits of adopting this mindset are not just material, but psychological and spiritual. You become a stronger, more resilient person, more capable of dealing with adversity. Instead of being dominated by life's difficulties, you face them as opportunities for evolution. And each obstacle overcome brings you closer to the person you are destined to become. Nietzsche did not see personal transformation as something isolated. He believed that by becoming a stronger and more independent person, you also begin to positively impact the society around you. By challenging weakness, by seeking your best, and by living according to your own values, You become an example for others. The people around you begin to notice your energy, your determination, and your will to succeed. That impact is contagious. You start to influence others positively, inspiring them to seek the same transformation. Imagine living in a society where more people are seeking self-development and overcoming. That is the future Nietzsche envisioned. A society of strong and authentic individuals who, together, can achieve the extraordinary. Last but not least, overcoming weakness leads to a life with purpose. Nietzsche always argued that life must be lived with intensity, that we should seek the full realization of our potential. He called this living with intensity. That is, living with a clear purpose, with the will to challenge yourself, to overcome, and to grow every day. When you decide to no longer accept weakness and begin to act authentically, with courage, you begin to live more meaningfully. Each day becomes an opportunity to get closer to greatness, to create real impact in the world. Your life stops being a survival game and becomes a journey of fulfillment. The solution Nietzsche offers is not simple, but it is effective. Become the Übermensch, the overman, someone who is beyond the norms and conventions society imposes. He's not talking about being perfect, but about constantly challenging yourself, about living a life of constant overcoming. The secret is not in passively accepting failures and weaknesses, but in using those weaknesses as fuel for continuous transformation. His solution is to act actively, to think critically, and not let yourself be limited by what others consider to be right. By applying this concept in your life, you can begin to take steps toward a new way of living, not in search of external approval, but of constant self-improvement. Nietzsche didn't promise an easy path, but he guaranteed that the path to becoming truly free and strong lies in challenging the weakness that lives inside us every day. And that is the true solution, the constant action of improving, overcoming, and transcending. So, what do you think? Was Nietzsche right in claiming that weakness is one of the greatest threats to our personal and social evolution? Have you ever thought about how you can overcome the limitations that society has imposed on you? Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on Nietzsche's ideas and how you believe you can apply these concepts of strength and overcoming in your own life. What impacted you the most in this reflection? I'd really like to know. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, take the opportunity now. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with more powerful content like this that will transform the way you think and act. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to receive all updates. Let's continue exploring more ideas together that can help you reach the next level. See you in the next video.